Rising, it's day 237 of 365, and today's message is: can you recognize where you continue patterns that don't serve you? Are you able to look at the world as a whole and recognize for generations and generations people have been bringing children into the world for all of the wrong reasons, to survive, to get a home, to secure that partner. None of these things really come from love necessarily, and obviously not always, of course, but I think it's really important to pay attention to where you recognize you are continuing to create from the same place all the time. You don't allow yourself to evolve because you are holding on to a version of yourself that no longer exists, but you keep recreating this version of yourself every single day. It's really important to recognize how exhausting that is, but also that it's not true. You don't have to be this one thing for the rest of your life. You don't have to do anything in the same way or in the way that it's always been done, because that's just what you know. You have a powerful mind. It's really up to you to use it, and it's really important that you do read, that you do write, that you hone in on these skills, because you've got to remember there's been periods of time where human beings have actively tried to stop other human beings from reading and writing. And so why is that? Because your mind is a powerful tool, and so every single day it's really, really important to be aware of what you're choosing, what you're creating, what you're bringing to life, and I guess the reason I brought up the children as well is because it's like there's nothing more harmful than bringing a child into this world, bringing life into this world, and then creating chaos for them. It's so harmful, it's so unkind, because then what comes of that is hopefully they are wise enough and strong enough and resilient enough to work on themselves throughout their life. But what happens when they don't? They become a harm to themselves first and foremost, and then to everyone else. And so it's really important to also think about what you know love to be, and also again why it's important to love yourself first and foremost, because if you truly love yourself, you'll pay attention to how you operate, and you'll understand that the ways in which you operate have an impact on everyone, not just you. And so if you're operating from a space of love, that pours out into the world, it pours out into your surroundings. If you operate from a space of hatred, that is what you perpetuate every single day. And then what you've got to remember as well is when you're creating children, you're also passing things to children. The womb is such a sacred space, and what's really interesting is that it just isn't discussed enough, isn't honoured enough, because we live completely differently. We would live completely differently, and I think that's also what can be difficult when you're trying to change or trying to better yourself, because in order to do things differently, it means the things around you have to change, and that is huge. If you're not ready or prepared for the things around you to change, then it can be very difficult to see how things will look. But most importantly, it's very difficult to control things, isn't it? And so that is also something as human beings you've got to be aware of. How much are you trying to control your life, like really, really restrictively control your life, and how much are you allowing yourself just to be an active participant in it? Which I guess in part might seem a bit woo-woo and wild, but nature is a prime example of how it functions. Yes, there's systems around us that function, and there's systems that you participate in, but you also do have choice to some degree to choose how you participate. You know, you get to control, the bits you get to control is how you respond to things. And so if you're responding to hatred with more hatred, you're fueling hatred, right? There's so much food for thought, I guess. But the most important thing to come out of this is the message about like, what are you choosing? What are you an active participant in? What are you creating with your words and your life? And I think one of the main ways to look at self and recognise whether you actually do love yourself, and if you are actively participating in life in a way that is conducive to your growth, is look at the life you live. You know, is your environment clean? Is your mind well? Is your body well? These are key indicators that will let you know immediately something's off. Is your body good? You know, do you feed yourself well? Are you strong? Do you wake up happy or unhappy? And do you lean towards vices in order to heal? Well, not even heal, sorry. Do you lean towards vices to avoid self? So not heal, because you can use things to heal, of course you can. But again, as I've said before, everything's in balance. When you're using things excessively to just cope with getting through the day, that's a sign that you're not being present with yourself, and you're also not in alignment. Something is wrong. And the only person that can correct that, really and truly, is you. Which is why it's so important to love yourself. Because when you love yourself, you are willing to do the work. When you love yourself, you are willing to look at the ugliness. When you love yourself, you're able to see the things that are painful and, you know, can create shame or guilt or all these emotions that we don't like to feel. However, you recognise that you can either stay the same, remain the same, continue doing the same thing, be on a loop, keep your mind on a loop, keep the way you think on a loop, or you can address the things that do hurt. And actually the other side of it is release, freedom, a freedom from all of this stuff that's icky and sticky and nasty. There's a liberation there that I guess is also about taking ownership of self. It's putting your hands up and saying, you know what, I did participate in this way, or this thing did happen to me that is heartbreaking and caused great harm. How do I progress through it? How do I live with knowing these things? And that's where avoidance comes in, because people think they can't live with the knowing, they would just choose to avoid, shut it away, pretend, not be present, and all that does is develop a monster. And you may not be able to see it necessarily, obviously, but there's something within people that's just simmering almost, you know, simmering and never healing. It's like a wound that's never healed, a wound that is never allowed to scar over and just, you know, do what it needs to do. So check in with yourself. Pay attention to the things that you do today that you know are harmful, and before you do those things, ask why. Check in with yourself in terms of how you love yourself. Are you operating in a way that is loving, or are you operating in the way you know how to operate? Don't care, unkind, cold, whatever it is, you are the power. Take back your power. Love yourself.